Where's that Mission Congress song that went on your marks? Let's give conference a taste of that. But the Congress has been, so we can't be marching. So we are marching to the other side. Okay, let's be creative. Come now. There we go. On your marks. We are all marching. Get set. Thank you very much. Over to you, Bishop. Let's settle. Let's find our seats. And let's listen. Let's give it a floor.
Thank you, Presiding Bishop, members of conference, greetings to all present. I am here just to share with you as conference the statement which was prepared out of discernment at the Mission Congress. The team and I worked on the statement, and so my brief is simply to read it to you as we did at the Mission Congress. The Methodist Church of Southern Africa, Mission Congress 2025 Statement. Introduction. From 15 to 17 September 2025, we gathered at the Northfield Methodist Church. We gathered from north and south, from east and west, as the people of God called Methodist. We gathered from Botswana, Eswatini, Lesotho, Mozambique, Namibia, and South Africa. We gathered speaking different languages, called together by one God, empowered by one Spirit, worshiping one Savior. We gathered as a pilgrim people on a journey of renewal. We gathered as a vibrant, vocal, and sometimes chaotic people. In our gathering, we sang, laughed, cried, listened, and wrestled together. God's Spirit disrupted our plans, confronted us with ourselves and the world, and invited us into a new journey of faithful discipleship. And so, reflecting the journey of the 3 days of Mission Congress, we first looked at who we are. We are a people who, in our discerning together, must face the complexity of identity. We are Christian, we are Methodist, we are African. Even as we struggle with what this means, we are called to revive our evangelical identity, personal conversion, and social holiness. We must wrestle with accountable discipleship. Who we are should be easy to define. We know the words. Yet we continue to wrestle with the intricacies of holding various layers and nuances of identity. in a world and a church that is more comfortable with absolutes. We are diverse people from across the connection, and yet we default to certain languages in our worship. We are diverse people, yet the expression of that diversity in racial terms is extremely limited. We are a people who must confront the truth that we are a people of theory, not practice. We talk but do not implement. We are a church blessed with systems, constitutions, policies, and resolutions. On paper, much of what we need for governance already exists. However, we lack the moral courage to implement and enforce our own policies, especially when it is costly or uncomfortable. We are a people who must discover again and again the challenges of working together, of offering listening as an act of hospitality. We are not always patient with one another, yet we experience together the powerful movement of God's Spirit in our singing together, in our praying together, in our talking together, in our wrestling together. We are a people who explore what it means to trust God, God who works in chaos and out of whose work comes a miracle. We are invited to become part of the miracle of God. And then in a further journey of discernment, what we do. We are a people who, in our discerning together, must receive the challenge. How do we hold the work of discernment in a meaningful way? A statement which is produced simply for the sake of having one is an affront to Jesus and to the church. We must wrestle with whether or not we can trust the disruptive interventions of God's Spirit. Can we trust one another when things do not go our way, when we get frustrated by our own struggles and chaos? Can we trust God to hold us? We are a people who must hear the gospel call to resurrection. This call requires us to recognize and acknowledge that we have followed too much the devices and desires of our hearts, and there is no health in us. We are dead. We are dying. We live comfortably in our whitewashed tombs and comfortable opulence. We are a people who must hear the gospel call to intentional humility, the shaping of relationships of radical equality. We are called to accompany God and to allow God to transform us into our full humanity. Clarity, capability, and care are crucial to this work. We are a people who must seek the courage to change and be transformed, to be a prophetic voice in the world today. Our worship in song continues to bless and renew, to energize and enthuse, to heal and hold. Our worship in service is still often lip service, form without power, words without deeds. We have resolutions, but no follow-through. And then in the discerning on the third day, in terms of movement to the other side, where we go. We are a people who, in our discerning together, are on a journey at a kairos time, a season of new beginnings and intentional preparation for God's future. We are poised on a threshold of possibilities. Will we step into the new, out of what we know and what is familiar, or will we remain where we are, risking complete irrelevance while continuing to talk about the other side? We are a people who, and now we have a little bit of insight into the work done in the commissions, we are a people who are challenged to continue exploring what it means to be both African and Christian, This would include the ongoing deconstruction and reconstruction of liturgy and expressions of worship which are inclusive, the application of Ubuntu as foundational to our theological reflection, pastoral care, and mission. We are a people who are called into deepening our spirituality through an intentional focus on class meetings or small group meetings over the next few years, with training of class or group leaders and producing and sharing relevant Wesleyan material. We are a people who are invited into more intentional accountability around the use of the resources at our disposal, particularly relating to financial, property, and social media resources. We are a people who are called to move from recognition of our diversity to full inclusion, noting that the legislation on gender and age representation in our gatherings and structures is still, for many, a matter of external compliance only. We are a people who are challenged to greater consistency and purposefulness in the application of our discipline, both in terms of the Book of Order and in terms of our well-being. And so we conclude, the other side awaits. We stand at the threshold. Will we choose death or will we choose life? Will we cross over or will we keep God and the other side waiting? Moving to the other side must take us through the wilderness. Moving to the other side requires honest reflection, confession of our sins, and continuous, considered choosing of Jesus and his gospel. Moving to the other side must be characterized by tenderness of conscience. We are called to be relocated and repositioned for mission and ministry. The other side awaits. Madam Presiding Bishop and GS and conference, this was the statement which was shared through the discernment process which was in place throughout the Mission Congress. And of course, there is another piece of work to that, which I would hand over to you for. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Reverend Faith Whitby. Am I correct in saying that the statement was received and adopted by the Mission Congress? May I then, ma'am, ask you then to move it on behalf of the Congress so that this conference can then adopt the statement?
Thank you, sir. I therefore move that this conference receives this discernment statement which comes from the Mission Congress.
Conference agrees? Conference agrees? Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am, for reading for us the statement. I will now call on Reverend Sifo to come and speak to us about the commissions that we are to go into after lunch to give direction as to how we're going to go about it.
Presiding Bishop and Conference, I greet you in the most wonderful and precious name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. PB, we have 6 commissions to which we invite the members of conference to attend to after lunchtime. The first request is that people must go to their allocated commission. And we know that we were given the liberty yesterday to choose the commission to which you go. So please do not change just anyhow the choice of the commission you went to. The second request to make is that we do not begin the conversation from the fresh start. This conversation in which we are at, which is culminating today, is a conversation we've been on for almost 2 years. We received feedback from circuits, from districts that went and was distilled into a number of themes, and then thereafter it was distilled further down to other themes, and then we ended up with 5 themes. So this is not a beginning of the work of definitions and descriptions. This is meant to be a conversation that takes us from discernment to commitment. So make your conversation in such a way that it guides the MCSA on how to go forward beyond the Mission Congress, at least for the next 10 years. And so there are 6 commissions, Madam Presiding Bishop. The Commission on Spirituality, Discipleship, and Evangelism has a color white. And it will go to Ubuhle Room across the pool. That's the first commission. Ubuhle Room with the color white will go there. The second commission on prophetic witness and social justice and inclusivity, diversity and intergenerational engagement has the color blue, and it goes to Egoli, also across the, over the pool. Egoli, that's the second commission. The third commission, ma'am, leadership, governance, and ministerial well-being. The color is red for that commission, and that commission will remain here in the main conference room. The fourth commission on sustainable resources and innovative communication, the color is black, and it goes across to Imvelo. And then the fifth commission on African identity and contextual theology, the color is green. It goes to Intlaba, the room also over the pool. And then the sixth and final commission, ma'am, editorial review of the Book of Order, 13th edition. The color is yellow, and they go to Ingadi room. Those are the commissions, ma'am. And so when you let us go, we will then ensure that people go into their respective rooms. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Reverend Sifo, and to Bishop Faith. It seems we did very well with processing this work, and therefore it buys us some time. I would request, though, that IT, if you can project those venues, maybe as we go to lunch, the different commissions and the different rooms, and you can have it on screen. Now, we have some time, and we can take reports. I see the convener of resolutions looking at me. You have something, sir? No. You just have that face. Thank you. All right, we can take a couple of reports then, and break for lunch at 1. Let us take the communications unit report. I invite the director.
Conference, we have a lost and found phone. If you are missing something, just be aware you will have to use your password to open it so that we know that it is yours. It is password protected. Apologies for not trusting. It's the context we live in.
Thank you, Director.
allow me, conference, to stand on the recognized protocols and say good afternoon. It is a pleasure to present to you
Let's settle. Conference settle, please.
the Communications Unit report for the year 2025. Well, the year that stretches from last year conference to this conference. I greet you all after a full year of interconnectional communications with the support of several media teams from across the connection. You will agree with me that there has been a lot more creativity with some of the content this year. We spent a lot of time this year working on the Mission Congress, and we had multilingual marketing and advertising for Mission Congress. And this was a first of its kind for us, and we celebrate that. One of the highlights of the year for me this year was visiting the former presidents and presiding bishops and listening to their stories, their wisdoms, and in fact, it wasn't their whole story, but parts of their stories. And the privilege of then writing short excerpts of their stories. And this led me to think about what a treasure trove of stories and knowledge and information we have in the MCSA. And I believe that as a connection, as districts, as societies, as circuits, we need to identify people within our spaces whose stories we can listen to and tell. Because we need to write the Methodist story, and we need to document the said stories. Join with me in celebrating the fact that after several years of requesting and reporting to this conference, we finally have live streaming equipment. That deserves a round of applause. I thank the presiding bishop and the general secretary and the general treasurer for facilitating this. Although we had some teething pains, the excellent live streaming experienced at Mission Congress until now is courtesy of the MCSA IT team. Please give them a round of applause. We would like, going forward, presiding bishop, for this team and this equipment to become the preferred supplier for all connectional events across our connection. And the reason being is that we want to standardize the live streaming, but we also want to use this as an opportunity to recoup the money that was used to purchase the equipment and in time add to what we have. So currently we have 2 cameras, as you can see. We have some speakers, we have microphones and so on. But we would like to add to this equipment a laptop, because we don't have a dedicated laptop to this. We want to have more microphones. We have recognized through Mission Congress that we would need microphones for the choirs, for instance, and those are a special type of microphone. We recognized yesterday that we will need lapel mics because we don't have them as yet. So we would want to add those, another camera, more lighting, and additional speakers, especially for bigger venues, and flight cases for when we travel. Investing in this equipment has saved the church over 100,000 rand, which we would have needed to pay for live streaming from Mission Congress across to the ordination service. And I believe that the church having its own equipment, the church becoming a service provider, if you like, will save us quite a lot of money, and into the future, we will be able to then invest some of this money into the communications unit and the ICT of the church. Social media. A lot has been said about social media from the General Secretary's report and other reports that have been received at this conference. And all I want to say about social media is that we continue to train with the hope that as we train on the spirituality of social media in particular, that hearts will be changed, that we will be transformed and understand that there is a responsibility in the use of social media. Amongst those trained this year were the seminarians, as well as the young adults movement in the Limpopo district, just to mention two. The unit has been busy revising some of the documents in the unit, and they are found in the file. The communication strategy for the MCSA has been revised. It would still need to go through various other structures for review. The media policy has also been revised. Poster design guidelines have been produced, and several facts sheets have also been produced. However, they have not been uploaded to the website because the Book of Order is under review, and therefore comparison needs to be made between the facts pages and what the Book of Order, the revised Book of Order, will say. Brand protection. As we journey to the Other Side conference, we need to guard jealously our brand. There are many across the connection who have requested over this past year accreditation to sell MCSA branded products. However, what they want is to be on the right side of the law rather than to actually give over the 10% to the church. So accreditation to sell MCSA branded products means that you understand that 10% of what you make will be given over for mission and ministry in the MCSA. However, a number have said to me that they feel that they are already giving to the church. Therefore, why should it be expected of them to pay over 10%? This has become problematic because we have found that there are so many people who are branding and selling merchandise with no accountability. May we join hands, because there is no way that this work can be done from the communications unit. It is us on the ground who need to join hands and end the ill discipline that is, that exists in the church right now. So we have allowed it, and we need to work collectively to end it. Last year, there was one resolution that was given to the communications unit. And this resolution had to do with resolutions and developing a mechanism to track resolutions, because over the years we have recognized that there are resolutions that keep coming back to conference, and sometimes we do not know what was resolved. And so we are trying to put together a mechanism that would help us to do this. So as a system that is part of the broader MCSA CITC system has been set up to track these resolutions. The system is not live yet. We were looking at it with the IT team when we were still at the office. And unfortunately, it doesn't capture all our resolutions. In fact, I remember saying to them that I might need to ask conference whether or not we can cap the year. Because between the time the church began until about maybe in the 90s or so, none of those resolutions are digitized. So what that means is that we would need the services of somebody to sit with the old yearbooks and physically type all these resolutions down so that they can then be inputted into the system. So that is the work, that is what we're working with. We do have a system in place. I had asked Rosh that we would show a little bit of what it looks like. It has some of the resolutions, but it is work that is ongoing. The unit is a support unit, and it continues to support other units, organizations, and departments through copywriting, editing, and the dissemination of information. I've spoken already about the training that we offer across the connection. I would like to take this time just to express a word of gratitude and applaud all the young people who volunteered their gifts and service to the connection and worked hard to ensure that everybody was included in the Mission Congress. They're not in the room right now, but I know I'm being live streamed, so please give them a round of applause. With their partnership and assistance, we were able to produce quality media products that have been shared and will continue to be shared post-conference. The unit looks forward to continued collaboration with the different media persons across the connection. There is much that can be achieved through teamwork. However, more needs to be done to support and value the work of volunteers, because I don't believe that we actually sometimes support and value the work that volunteers do. So as we tread carefully towards the other side and contemplate better and holistic connectional communications and ICT, may serious consideration be given to either capacitating the unit with more human resources or allowing the unit to create a connectional media team with individuals who can be called upon as and when they are needed. But a budget would need to be attached to this. With the death of the print version of the New Dimension, more serious thought needs to be given to how we meet the communication needs of our parents and grandparents who live in far-flung areas and have no access to social and other media. I met a grandmother in one of the travels across the connection who asked me why we were not printing the newspaper anymore, because that was where she got all her church news from. So systems need to be created so that there is a flow of information from our ministers to their congregations and to those who cannot access social and other media. Allow me at this time, conference, to offer some appreciation to the Reverend Dlamini, who is the chair of the Comms Unit Board, for his support and quiet wisdom throughout the year. I also appreciate the presiding bishop and general secretary and all my colleagues at the Methodist Connectional Office, because none of the work that we do happens in a vacuum. I also invite us all to please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is called the Methodist Church of Southern Africa Connection. Please subscribe. The YouTube channel is very busy currently. There's a lot of content that I think you would find useful and helpful. Please subscribe. Also like and follow the official MCSA TikTok page. And whilst I'm there talking about our YouTube channels and pages, another thing, I forgot to put it down, but one thing that has become a problem for us as the Methodist Church is the sprouting of all sorts of pages and channels and so on. Anybody who thinks or feels that they want a page have decided that they will start a page, and there is no accountability. We are the church. And anything that we do, there must be lines of accountability so that we do no harm. So I would request that even as we go back to our districts and our circuits, that we look at all those pages, because the administrators belong to the church. They are Methodists. They have a minister. They have a superintendent. Let us call them to order. Let's put our house in order. And so as we move to the other side, strong strategic communication on multiple platforms remains the lifeline of a regional church. It builds connection across distances, nurtures trust, and ensures that every congregation feels seen, heard, and part of the wider body of Christ. May we continue to work hard and better to improve both our internal and external communication systems. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Let's give the director a round of applause. Thank you. Conversation, hands. 1, 2, 3. All right, let's have those hands up again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. Right, please approach the mics and stand there by the mic ready to speak. It's a whole line of gentlemen. Ladies, please do not be too quiet in this conference. This is our place for engaging. I'm just looking at the line. Ladies. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, conference. Thank you so much, the Director of Communications. I just have one question. In terms of criteria of choosing communication officers in circuits, is there any criteria? Because I remember from last year, it was said that anyone that has passion for communications. However, I do feel that they need to have to be a criteria, because we find ourselves in districts and circuits that the people that show interest, they end up being not trained, and also not actually communicating the right context of the church and of the circuit. So I think going forward, there needs to be criteria that are set in place for recruitment, and also for guidelines in terms of what are the specific needs and criteria that needs to be done to choose these people that volunteer for such service. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam PBN Conference. Thank you, Director, for a very spot-on report. I just have two things to raise. Firstly, you had reported, Director, that you are working with all organizations, units, and districts in terms of covering events of the very different districts. But from what we've been observing particularly on the Facebook page, it is particularly programs and events where you would be accompanying the presiding bishop specifically. But in instances where there are important programs and events taking place in some districts, they are not covered. My question, what are your relations with district comms officers? That question rises from a point of if there are intact relations between the director and comms officers, surely when there are programs in the various districts, you can always provide temporal admin rights to comms who resides in those particular districts so that the events are covered. And then just after the event, we can always take those rights back. So my question still stands. Are there relations between yourself, your good self, and district comms? The second one you had mentioned in your report, and I want to strongly agree with you that it is really unbecoming that you would establish that there are Facebook pages that are created under the name of the church and there are no due processes being followed. And I think there's one Facebook page that was reported to your office, which is still in existence, sometimes covers some of our programs, the Wesley Guild SA in particular. I just want to check what is your take to that? Thank you.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, PB. Mine is, I think I just want to congratulate the team on the acquiring of the equipment. It was really, really long overdue, and we've seen that a lot of all these churches have got these teams and also really good investment on live streaming and video equipment. So we are on the right track. So congratulations on that work. Yeah, definitely we need to invest more and expand on that work that has been done. And then secondly, I just wanted to also speak to the social media platforms. I think it is quite a progressive move to go into the TikTok space. We have seen from the social media in terms of the growth that, you know, the TikTok platform is the fastest growing network and also the most engaging network that is currently leading in terms of the social media platform. So we are in the right space. All we got to do then, Sis Bongi, is to ensure that we keep that platform updated with content and engaging content. And I think you're going to need assistance, especially from these young ones that are content creators and talented people that can then contribute to those pages. So in a way, my proposal is to say that instead of maybe trying to discipline the people that are doing all these sprouting of content, maybe let us start taking them through into the team and making them contribute towards the MCSA at a larger scale than having, you know, smallanyana pages that are popping up there and there. So, yeah, that's my input. Thanks.
Thank you. Please keep it brief. Yes, ma'am.
Madam PB and Director, we know that the social media space is very difficult to discipline people. So it's easier for ministers and people that are staff. The question is, what about the greater MCSA? Because there has to be a clear discipline procedure on social media. That's just my suggestion.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Bibi. I'd like to thank the director in speaking around the issues of collaboration, especially recently as she went to visit the past presidents. I encourage the spirit of collaboration. May it be extended to all officers of conference when it's needed. Now, the issue of training. I see that it has been highlighted that there was training around SMMS and organizations. Isn't there a way where we can leverage the relationship of communications officers in districts to be part of these trainings, to ensure that whatever we are doing at districts is somewhat directed by what Sis Bongi is speaking about? I think that would yield value. I also heard the mention of a 10% levy around branding. One, is this legislated? Where can we find it? Two, is it a tracking mechanism? Because I would imagine if I want to sell socks I will not come and report it to anyone. It will be the general meeting that affirms that I'm selling socks with an emblem. And there would be a specific cause for that. Do we have a tracking tool? Thank you.
Thank you.
Presiding Bishop and the Director, thank you for the report. I think in terms of the issues that have been touched by the first speaker, there's just a portion I want to touch on. The issues of brand management are not always going to come from the top level. The issues that will affect the brand are going to come from societies and circuits and districts. If we are not capacitating the people who are managing the brand on the ground on our behalf, we're going to have a problem managing the brand. And therefore, I would be interested going forward that we devise a strategy of how do we do that to ensure that those who speak on behalf of the church in terms of implementing the programs on the ground are aligning themselves with the messages that you speak of in the comms strategy that is in the book there. If they are not aligned, we are not going to be managing the brand at all. We are going to have a problem managing the brand. But secondly, with the issue that Brother Badi is touching on, it is going to be difficult to have a business arrangement that is managed through a gentleman's agreement. We need to have legal processes that are going to manage that arrangement. But the danger is this. We then enter the terrain around who owns the patents that we speak of when we are speaking about selling products and so forth. And we then need to answer the question, where do we stand in terms of the ownership of those patents? Because once it becomes a legal issue and we don't own those patents, we have no right to tell them to give us 10%. And we will wake up one day with another person outside the church owning these patents, and we, the ones who are inside, having to pay that 10% to them in order to use it. So we need to guard against that, because the moment we talk that language, we are entering that terrain. And I want us to be cautious around that and broaden that conversation so that we really protect this brand. Otherwise, we stand the chance of going to someone else to ask for permission to own the brand.
Thank you very much, conference, for those questions. Just to say, in corporate space, we use brand, but in church, we move more especially towards identity. So that languaging, because brand comes with its own connotations, even though it could possibly mean the same thing, but we would err towards using identity. All right, Comms Director, over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the questions and the comments. The first one had to do with the criteria for district communications officers. Yes, there is a criteria, and it was brought to conference a few years ago. I think I would need to trace it, find out where it is, and then share it with the different districts. There is a criteria. And you're right in saying that half the time, the people that we choose to do the communications work aren't necessarily communicators, but people who might be active in the church, and sometimes, you know, they don't have the skills to do the work, but they're very passionate about the church. So we do have criteria that I am quite happy to share with everybody. With regards to coverage, that's a very important observation that you made. Part of the mandate of the communications unit is to cover all connectional events. All connectional events, which is, as you rightly observed, in most cases would be where the presiding bishop is. And those are connectional events. I have, just to backtrack a little bit, not all districts have communications persons that I know of. And that is problematic. But you would have noticed that, for instance, I know of the Clarkbury district, so you would have seen quite a bit of their content because they become temporary admins on the page. So those permissions are given to different communications officers across the connection, you would have seen that the funeral of Umfundisi, who passed away a couple of weeks ago, was also live streamed on the page. So the permissions are granted, but not all communications officers around the connection are known to myself, are known by the unit. I agree with you that we need to improve the relationships with the communications officers. I did request this at the beginning of the year when we met with the bishops, and a few of them did send me the names of their communications officers, and I have worked well with these throughout the year. I agree also that there needs to be training, just to pick up on question Lucy, there needs to be training of all the communications officers, and that's something that's on the cards, so that they can then replicate that training in their various districts and hold people accountable. The question around pages, and specifically Wesley Guild essay, I think there are people more qualified to speak to this. We have the president of the Youth and Children. We have the president of the Wesley Guild also in the room. I know that this has been an issue under discussion. I am not privy to the finer details of where this discussion is at, but if they have some information that they would like to share about where that conversation is at, please, with your permission, Presiding Bishop, may they share that. Thank you, Bonga. You said updated with relevant content, up-to-date content. I agree totally, which is why I requested a team. I would need a team from across the connection so that these pages do not just seem to cover content in one direction, but rather cover content from across the 6 countries of our connection. You suggested also that we pull together all these content creators who are using our IP and creating content about the Methodist Church of Southern Africa. Whilst I think that's an excellent idea, we must also realize that there is money attached to content creation. And some of them may not move over to the other side as willingly as we think they might, because they are already, they've created a platform, they've got followers, they've got numbers, and they are making money. And so we need to tighten issues around the use of our IP. And I'll pick up on, I think was the last question that spoke about, how do we protect our brand without a legal document? We have a policy. We have a policy that speaks to all of this. And I know that Chapter 11 is being revised, and maybe within that Chapter 11, we need to then include the procedures, Reverend Aletta. We need the procedures that would be employed when somebody flouts our policies and our laws. Okay, I've spoken to training, communication. The 10% is legislated, it is in a policy, but maybe we would need to do more. I'm happy to have conversation with those who believe we would need to do more so that we see how we revise that policy so that it can stand in a court of law. Where do our patents sit currently? All patents of the MCSA reside in the office of the General Secretary. All our insignia and pins and so on are trademarked. But you are right. A few years ago, before we were trademarked, there was actually a lady who came with a letter that she had received from her bishop, saying that she owned the women's mañano pin, the patent for anything women's mañano related, especially the blankets. So she brought a letter, but the letter was not legal because the bishop did not have the right to do that. So we do face those kinds of challenges, but we need to correct that. think, I think I've covered all the questions, Presiding Bishop.
Thank you. Conference? Conference, please settle. Director, MCYU, around the page, yeah, Wesley Guild SA. Please report on the work there. Let's settle.
Thank you, ma'am, and the conference. The Wesley Guild SA page, the matter was before the Children and Youth Conference, and the resolution was taken by the Children and Youth Conference, seeking clarity. Who is this and who takes ownership of it? And until that is explained, we took a stance that it is not the page of MCSA. It is individual members in MCSA who created a Wesley Guild SA page. Therefore, whatever content that is posted here, MCSA does not take responsibility for it. I was mandated we were mandated, sorry, not myself, to engage the presiding bishop's office. And I must say, it's been 8 years, even before I came to office. The conversation was started by presiding bishop during the time of Utatu Siwa, conversation about it. Last few weeks back, the presiding bishop requested me to facilitate a meeting with Wesley Guild SA, MCYU, our Wesley Guild Connectional Executive, for facilitation of the conversation about the pay.
Very much, Director. We recognize the complexity of this, especially since we've seen trends whereby on this page, anything that the church is still busy with or is controversial, it seems to be getting some airtime. And so that causes division. And as the director reports, I am looking into it, and they are willing to meet with us, and we will have a multi-pronged approach to try to resolve this matter, recognizing that some of it calls for us to speak about discipline. These are members, and so they can't just do. Also from the legal team, we would, after exploring all pastoral, that's where we start. We always start with pastoral interventions. After exploring all that, we would, if needs be, then put a disclaimer that this page is not associated with the MCSA. Right, thank you. Comes, Director?
Thank you very much, ma'am. I think with that disclaimer would then be an interdict to stop them from using any of our intellectual property as well. Ma'am, before I move for the adoption of the report, please may I ask you to like and subscribe to our YouTube page and TikTok, please, and thank you. Ma'am, I move that the Communications Unit report be accepted as part of the deliberations for Conference 2025.
Thank you. The report has been proposed for adoption. Is conference agreed? Since I know you have your phones in your hands, please subscribe immediately.
Amen.
All right. Cheers. Where do we go?
HR report, ma'am.
Yes, let's give a round of applause. Thank you.
We are now to receive the HR report, ma'am.
Right, HR Administrator, I invite you. And this report will take us to lunch. Thank you, ma'am. Mrs. Marty. I hope that conversation is about subscribing. I see here Bishop District 1 is being helped, assisted to find YouTube. She can't find YouTube. Gaia, you need help? Yeah, within. Thank you. All right. Let's now settle and give over to HR administrator to address us. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Presiding Bishop. I greet you it's afternoon, I guess, and the General Secretary and the lay President, and I stand on the protocol that has already been observed. I do hope I am audible, especially to the back. Thank you. It is an honor and a privilege, Madam Presiding Bishop, to be able to present the work of the unit since we last met in Conference 2024. The full report for the unit is found on page 196 of our conference book. I will therefore, in the interest of time, Madam Presiding Bishop, will not be going through the entire report, but I will just present on issues or highlights from the unit that we wish conference to take particular notice of it.
193.
Oh, sorry, it's 193. Thank you, Madam Presiding Bishop. The page is 193. Apologies for that. In the ever-changing landscape of human resources, it is forever critical for the MCSA to stay ahead of the curve and embrace the latest trends in an aim or seeking to succeed in the competitive market. And it is clear especially from after COVID, that the world of work is changing in a rapid pace. So as the MCSA, we need to up our game and ensure that we remain efficient and effective, especially in the area of human resources or human capital. We therefore seek to make sure that as the MCSA, we are at par with other organizations, especially when it comes to this area. And as the unit to achieve that, we make sure that we attend and participate in bigger forums of where human resource professionals gather, like the Human Resource Summit, which happens annually, the HR Indaba, which also happens annually, to make sure that we stay ahead and we make sure that the MCSA is at par. Of course, recognizing that the complexities, the MCSA is not like any other organization. It's an organization that is an employer, but an employer I put it in inverted commas because maybe that's not the kind of language that we use in the context of the church. But we do strive as the unit to ensure that we take care of our human capital. That will include our clergy, who are our agents, and that would also include our lay staff. Some of the trends that we have seen for the year, because the report starts from after Conference 2024 up until Conference 2025. Some of the emerging trends that we have seen in the space of human resource, as you can see them on the screen, include building organizational culture through employee well-being. It is quite pleasing, ma'am, to see that what has been picked up on the conversations that were going on in the Mission Congress, and one of the commissions will be looking at the well-being of our agents. And as the unit, we are quite pleased to see that happen, because that's one of the trends or one of the strategic focus areas that in the unit we have paid more attention when it comes to the well-being of our clergy and the well-being of our lay staff. The other theme or the other focus area or the trend that we have seen in the area of human resources is continuing to embed technology in our HR processes. As we go through the report, we will see some of the digital or technological and advancements that we have done as the unit to ensure that the work that we do is efficient and to limit our processes, especially our administrative processes in HR at the moment or in the past years. They have been too manual and time consuming. So we have seen that technology in the world today, and especially AI, is beginning to dominate even in the world of work. What we have seen other organizations do is also even going to an extent of conducting interviews virtually through AI, and we are yet to explore some of those avenues. We have seen that data is very important. One of the comments I picked up from the floor was that we should use numbers to our advantage. And the data that was presented here by the General Secretary in his report really is one of the signs that we should pay attention to our data, especially our human capital data. In HR is what we call HR matrix. One of the things also picked up is that when you look at our HR matrix, our rate of turnover is quite high, in the sense that the ministers that go out of the system through retirement does not equal the intake that we receive. So that makes our human capital imbalance, because what we are taking out of the system is more than what we are receiving into the system in terms of the number of candidates, as you have seen in the reports of EMMU. So that's one of the things that as the unit we take focus on, so that one of the trends is that our decisions, whatever decisions that we take, should be driven by the data that we have, so that we do not make decisions, especially on our human capital, pardon me for the language, that we are just guessing, but we are making decisions that are based on, we are using or making sure that the data we have, we use it to our advantage. Another focus or another trend that we have seen in the area of human resources for the year under review is managing an increasingly hybrid workforce. And to that extent, I think in Conference 2023, Conference endorsed a remote work policy, which is included in our employee handbook, as an effort to ensure that we, as the unit, we are also at par with other organizations, because we cannot say that we are the church, we've got ministers, we've got lay staff who are just going to sit and not pay attention to the trends that are happening in the space of HR. So those are some of the things or some of the trends that we have seen in the year under review. When we go now to overview of the work of the unit, one of our areas of risk in terms of human resources is, okay, let me start by saying human resources risk management involves identifying and addressing potential issues related to employees, agents, in our case, compliance, and organizational culture. Compliance, it is important to note that compliance in terms of HR is one of our risk areas. We have seen over the years that compliance to labor laws is one of our weakest points, to an extent that whenever sectors or societies that employ lay staff, if it ever happens that they get taken to CCMA for labor-related or not complying with labor laws, one of the things that we have picked up over the years is that happens due to non-compliance in terms of labor laws. Therefore, compliance can never be overstated. And by nature, labor laws are designed to ensure fair treatment and outlining employer or responsibilities. To manage this risk, therefore, the unit has continued to partner with EMMU by offering capacity building training, particularly with particular focus on labor laws and compliance. This training is offered through EMMU on an annual basis for new superintendents and refresher courses for superintendents. We continue as the unit to also look at legislation changes. And if you remember conference last year in 2025, we gave an overview of legislation changes across the countries of our connection so that we ensure and assist even the countries of our connection that we comply with the labor laws of that country, as we know that each of these sovereign countries of our connection, they've got their own labor laws, which we should ensure that even in the countries of our sovereign states of the connection, they also comply. Notable changes, other detailed changes are in the report. The notable changes in the BCEA for 2025 has been the increase in the earnings threshold, which was increased from 261,74845 was increased to 261,74845. That amounts to about 21,812.37. And this then sort of creates a spectrum of who is covered by the Basic Conditions of Employment Act, BCEA, as we call it. Another notable change is the code of practice with dismissals, which is attached to the Labor Relations Act. It's important to note that this code of good practice deals with dismissals, with key aspects of dismissals for reasons relating to conduct, capacity, and it offers guidance to employers, employees on legal obligations under the Labor Relations Act regarding dismissals. It could be dismissals for misconduct, dismissals for incapacity, dismissals due to operational requirements. And with the introduction of this code of good practice, it has sort of created a very strict framework around dismissals, including regulating how we manage our probationary periods and the dismissals, or if ever someone is not performing during the probationary period, how do we handle that? But it is very important that we pay so much attention to this code, because dismissals are very tricky in its nature, and it is also very important that we do them by the book, ensuring that we comply to the Labor Relations Act, especially compliance to this code of good practice. The next strategic focus area for the unit has been well-being or wellness management for our clergy and their families. A wellness assistance program in any organization is a secret weapon to fostering support and a productive work on environment. A wellness program is not just a perk, but it's a strategic tool that offers confidential and professional support to employees and agents of the church as to our context. Therefore, over the years, we have been advocating for the wellness program that is offered by Life Assist. And Life Assist continues to offer our ministerial agents and their immediate families a well-rounded and multifaceted employee well-being program, providing everything from counseling, mental health support, debt advice, legal advice, and even health advice. The unit over this year, which is under review, has placed a huge focus on the well-being and promoting the services that are offered by Life Assist, ensuring we create awareness and promoting the use of these services. And Madam Presiding Bishop, I would love to just mention two districts which I applaud. Kumkani Hinsa district and Limpopo district, who took it upon themselves to invite the unit and Life Assist to one of their ministers' meetings, or it was convocation for Limpopo district, where we are able to create awareness around this project. And I must say, I received a report from the quarterly report that we received from Life Assist. They did indicate that actually we will get to the numbers as we proceed with the report, that after the visits with those two districts, Kumkani Hinsa and Limpopo, there was a slight increase in the usage of that program. So we really would love to thank the two districts for allowing the unit and Life Assist to present on the offerings of Life Assist, to create more awareness, and also to make sure that our ministers use this program because it comes to them free of charge for them and their immediate families, being paid for by the MCSA. This is just a snapshot. It is pleasing to report that our engagement rates for Life Assist in the past quarter of 2025, we achieved an encouraging total engagement rate of 8.5%, which is a significant increase of 2.5% in the first quarter. In the first quarter, we had 2.5% engagement, and in the last quarter, in the past quarter of 2025, we have received 8.5%. And as I've said before, this improvement can be attributed to the training sessions we had in Kumkani Hinsa and in July 2025. These engagements with ministers and clergy are offer invaluable opportunities to discuss pertinent issues of mental health and offer practical tools in managing stress.
Please settle. Please settle. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Bishop. Acknowledging that ministry in its nature is stressful, and our ministers do need some care when it comes to mental health for themselves and their families, to ensure that we create a good work balance. Some of the main presenting issues, 78% of the presenting issues which we have drawn from the report that we receive from Life Assist, is 78% of the issues were personal, and 28% of those cases were accounting to adjustment. As we all know that our ministers annually, they move some of them from one circuit to the other. So that on its own creates some mental health issues. So 28% of the cases that were attended to by Life Assist were accounting to adjustment issues. This aligns with our understanding of the primary struggles faced with ministers. We must highlight, Madam Presiding Bishop, that EAP to ministers and their families who are relocating to a different district remains of great importance, as relocation can be deeply disruptive, especially for ministers whose roles are often intertwined with community and spiritual leadership. What we see on the board then is an overview of the overall engagements for the last quarter of for the past quarter, not the last quarter, because 2025 has not come to an end. But for the previous quarter of 2026, the statistics as we see them on our presentation there, 82%, we've done 82% of training. There has been 14% of telephonical counseling and communication that the organization, which is Life Assist, dealt with in terms of emails would have been 44%. As you see on the table before that, the statistics, when you compare with second quarter of the previous year and first quarter of the previous year and the second quarter of 2026, I'm sure you can see the difference in the numbers. That in the first quarter, for instance, of 2024, there were total of 6 cases that were there, but in the past quarter as it stands, and mindful of the fact that 2025 has not come to an end, of course we can see an increase, of which it is not a huge increase, but we do celebrate that increase because it means our ministers and their families are beginning to see the importance. So we do hope that in 2026, we will see a huge improvement. And I must say, over the years, I think in Conference 2022, one of the comments we received from the floor was that the usage, and we could see ourselves that the usage was quite low. There must have been 2 or 3 cases. But as we stand today, we see that we already have an increase in the number of cases that we have seen in the year. I've got 5 minutes. One of the work that we have done in collaboration with MCYU was establishing a graduate program. As the director for the youth did indicate that it's still a pilot program, which we submitted a proposal with a net campus group, and then were granted that opportunity to establish a graduate intention program. And for the future, we are actually looking at, with the same group, also introducing a labor market activation program that will not focus on the connectional office, but focus and in terms of trying to make sure that our young people of the MCSA, they get into the labor market. One of the work that we have also done in the unit, also being influenced or being empowered by some of the recommendations of the MCO review, was doing some work on organizational redesign, especially of the Methodist Connectional Office. The process of redesigning an organization or business unit involves a holistic approach that goes beyond just arranging reporting lines and rearranging boxes. There is a lot of work that we have done in redesign, especially in the finance unit, to ensure that we streamline our the human capital we have in the office. In the conference of 2024, we did present
One conference. I recognize that we are into lunchtime and you are restless, but please let's give this a few minutes and let's give the administrator the dignity she deserves as she does her work. Please be still. Thank you. In the next 5 minutes, Director, please Apologies, conference. Thank you. Please proceed, ma'am.
I'm about to conclude, ma'am. Thank you. And it's important that we take particular notice, especially of what I'm about to say. In last conference 2024, if you look at the report, which is contained in the yearbook 2024, our current yearbook, you will see that we presented the statistics of our human capital. And I must say, our numbers, or in terms of our head count of the Methodist Connectional head count of our Methodist Connectional Office has drastically dropped due to a number of factors. But we have tried, especially for the finance unit, to ensure that we do a redesign of the structure of the unit itself, to ensure that we maximize on the skills that are already there in the office, and to ensure that the unit is able to serve the connection in the manner that we are supposed to do that. One of the biggest changes there was a question on the floor that came regarding medical aid. One of the recommendations of the MCO review, and I think we would know in the secular world, some of us where we work, that the component of administration of our benefits, for lack of a better word, please forgive me, which is medical aid and pension fund, was usually or normally in the finance unit. But one of the recommendations of the MCO review was that that work in its sense belongs to the HR unit. So in the year under review, and also having listened to the connection and the concerns that we're getting around that area, we have relocated, or yes, we have relocated, I think it's the right word. We have relocated, Madam President, that part of work and subsumed it in the HR unit, so that we have our medical aid and our pension fund administered through the HR unit. One of the things that we have done is that we have, I will skip this one. One of the things that we have done in terms of digitizing or ensure that we transform our unit digitally is creating a platform, especially for the administration of our medical aid and our pension fund. This digital platform, this is just a view of the dashboard that we are using, that we've introduced, I think, in the past month, having been designed by our IT side of the office, to ensure that we manage the queries that we get and how those queries get administered through the office. And finally, in terms of transforming the unit digitally, as you can see off the screen, there is work that we are doing in terms of job architecture and online grading system. And secondly is the automation of our stationing processes. Currently, the process or the way we record it so that we have it, the final document that appears in the yearbook, it's very manual. But we are moving into a space that we will be able to do that digitally without having to write and do all of that. In conclusion, Madam Presiding Bishop, we would really love to thank your office and the chair of the HR unit board, who is the General Secretary, for assisting us in the unit to make sure that we're able to deliver on the objectives as set in the Methodist Book of Order, and also to ensure and assisting the MCSA, making sure that we are at par or we are not left behind in terms of the work that we do in the unit regarding to human resources. The report has reflected on the work that we have done, and I would love to end with a quote from Meshia N. Martin that says, "I believe for an organization to grow sustainably and successfully, leadership must take care of people's needs to build trust and ultimately foster a sense of belonging to the organization that can contribute to positive employee retention. And people are the core of most organizations, and it is time to take care of our human capital." Thank you, Madam Presiding Bishop.
Thank you, Director. Hands. Nope, we are wrapping up this business right here and now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Please approach the mic. Keep it brief. Please pose a question and not a lecture. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Presiding Bishop, let me molo ma'am uBishop ke uthi mandikubulele kakhulu ngoba ke usikhanganyile sikho umkaninzi. Thank you so much. I've got just two maybe questions or comments. One, it would seem that the turnaround time for the church, because I would say the church, I understand that there are processes to license us, or to give us marriage licenses, is taking quite a very, very, very long time. And I think I would like to understand what is it that makes it takes more than almost 10 years now since I applied, and I've had no feedback whatsoever in that regard. And then the second one, I hope that there by Life Assist, they didn't tell you that I call anonymously. Okay. Then the last one, the issue of relocation,
Be still.
the issue of movement, relocation, or adjustment is bound to cause psychological and other such distress, because it is quite cumbersome, quite a lot. It can take a lot from you psychologically, it can take quite a lot from you financially and otherwise, not only to yourself, but to the entire livelihood of your family. And I understand that previously, there were bits and pieces of some few perks that would assist the moving minister to settle in the next destination. And it would seem that those are not there anymore. Things like your uniform allowances and other such. Because if I have to move my kids to another town, right, I am just about to part with almost 30,000 rands from my savings and stuff like that, just for that movement. And SNS is good enough. We appreciate SNS, but alone does not necessarily assist. And PB, that speaks to the frequency of movement of ministers, because it impacts negatively to the livelihood of the families and stuff.
Thank you. Yes, okay. Continue, ma'am. It's all right, Nevana.
By applauding the HR officer and the team by being sensitive to the plight of the unemployed graduates. Nelson Mandela once said, "A nation that does not look after their youth is doomed." And I want to have a take in your blogs where you were speaking of the policies. I did not see the retention as well as the career pathing as part of your policies. And again, you cited a lot of mental health issues, but in the same breath, I've never seen, so I did not see a policy that is talking to such. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, PB. The first one is to just echo the same sentiments of Fundisi Kuluba, with an addition maybe to request the PB to use her allocated power. Just meet with the Minister of Home Affairs and then iron out these issues and create a relationship, because there's a lot of synergies between what we do and Home Affairs. The second one perhaps is a proposal to say, a proposal or inquiry to say Life Assist together with MU. I understand MU now has got psychometric tests, and together with seminary, when you are talking about formation, can those three come together so that we get to a point of having tailor-made formation? And it can be measured to say, Butelezi came to the seminary at point A, we can measure the formation, and he has come out of seminary, having sorted out some of those issues in relation with formation. I suppose Life Assist can be part of that journey of formation. And the last one is the cross-border stationing. One of my colleagues, I can see, is emotionally drained and tired and exhausted because of the work permit application process. I'm not so sure if maybe there can be an assistant in your office who deals with this directly, and it becomes their day-to-day job to make sure that they assist ministers who are going across the border, especially with the application quite a difficult one. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. PB, mine is a very small question. It is about life assist. We appreciate the service that it brings to us and our families. But mine is just a question, because I saw that as you were presenting, there was a report of around 25% of the issues relating to relocation. And so I guess my question is, how private, how private and how safe is it? And if there is a bigger reason that the church has to receive maybe the issues that are prevalent, and if that need overrides my needing to feel safe in engaging in that space. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, over to you, Mrs. Madi.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Bishop. I will start with the last comment. As apologies. Sorry, as you see on the snippets that I show, I reflected on the screen, it is only snippets of usage. So the reporting that we get is mainly focuses on usage. Numbers, it has got no names that we can guarantee you, because the organization itself is bound by the medical board in terms of doctor-patient confidentiality. So all what we get is just the numbers without any names in particular. There are no names that comes to the office in terms of who has called with this and that. Highlighting the issues is important for us, so that we are able to pay particular focus. For instance, if the report says 28% of issues that were reported were relating to adjustment, that says to us in our stationing and the removal of ministers, we need to pay particular attention, especially to care for the ministers when they change. So these numbers, we did say earlier that we must use numbers to our advantage. So these numbers, when we receive them, we are able then to strategize properly and then improve in terms of how we improve on the service that is being provided and which specific areas to focus on. For instance, if we do not have the numbers, then we're not able to pay attention to particular areas that have been highlighted by the report. Hence, I felt it very important that most of the time you talk about the program, there's low usage, but you're not giving numbers. And numbers help us to make better decisions and also the ability to pay attention to specific areas. On the issues of work permit, it is a painful issue, we do understand. And what we have done in collaboration with Finance Unit, in the past few weeks, we went to Eswatini, which is Highveld and Eswatini districts, to try and assist the ministers there in terms to understand better, because some of the difficulties, Madam Presiding Bishop, is that sometimes it's the issue of not even understanding what is the process in that particular country to apply for a work permit. So in the past weeks, we went to Eswatini to try and understand what is the process and how can we help in the office in terms of applying for work permits. And one of the areas I think we had discussed with GS was that immediately after conference, then we are able to start the process of applying for work permits. But when we visited Eswatini GS, we realized that that is not even practical for that country because of the process of applying for a work permit. You need to be in the country, apply for a temporal permit to stay in the country, which is a month. After a month, then you apply for a work permit. So what we thought from the office we would love to do, be proactive so that when January comes, ministers do not struggle. It turned out to be the opposite. We will therefore, with the help of the General Treasurer and the Finance Unit, seek to understand better in the other countries of our connection, what are the processes, so that we know exactly how to move when it comes to work permits. The collaboration with EMMU, SMMS, and Life Assist, we note that, and we do think from the HR perspective that will work seamlessly to ensure that the care of our ministers starts exactly from the entry point and continues right through the ministry of our agents. And I've covered on confidentiality. The MCSA does have a policy on a wellness policy that we adopted some years ago. So that is in place. There was a question on a policy. Lastly, on the issues of marriage licenses and the application, I must say, Madam Presiding Bishop, as the unit, this is one of the areas that frustrates us to the core. Because unfortunately, as the mother body, we've got absolutely no control in terms of how Home Affairs handles our applications. I have reported to the PBO that we have even went to an extent of writing emails to the highest in power in the department at Home Affairs to try and make that process seamless. But it doesn't seem to improve. But we are keeping an eye on it, and we are trying our level best. And we do apologize to our ministers for the frustration it causes. And on the other 10, we also get frustrated because it's an area that is very difficult for us to navigate because we depend on entirely with the Department of Home Affairs. But we are working tirelessly to ensure that, to get the department to notice us, because we are one of the largest mother bodies in terms of churches that has got the highest number of ministers, I assume. The MCSA has got a large number of marriage officers. So we will try our best to improve that area with the help of the PBO. Thank you, Madam Presiding Bishop.
Thank you. Please move for adoption.
I, therefore, conference would love to move the report from the HR unit for adoption. Thank you.
Thank you. The report has been moved for adoption. Is conference agreed? Shall we give HR a round of applause? Shall we give all the unit leaders a round of applause? Thank you. The GS will now present notices, and then we will break shortly.
Thank you, PB. We're now going to go for lunch, and lunch will end at 2:30. And we want to recommend that immediately after lunch, you go to your groups. I'm sure you are aware now, the rooms are on the other side of the swimming pool. So you just go to that side. The resolutions committee, you are also having your room that we have made available for you. We will then come back. You'll go for tea at 4, and then come back straight to this room at 4:30. So we come back to this room at 4:30. You go for tea at 4 o'clock. And I know you, as disciplined Methodists, you will keep to the times. Thank you.
All right, delegates from District 12, please lead us in prayer. Delegates from District 12, and also bless the food. District 12 is looking smart today. Beautiful. Thank you, sir.
Vamos orar. Obrigado, Senhor. Obrigado, Pai. Queremos agradecer neste momento, Senhor, pela sua graça neste lugar. Queremos agradecer pela paz e a sua atmosfera trimestral, Senhor, que está neste lugar. Queremos agradecer por todos os programas que já passaram Queremos agradecer, Senhor, por não permitir que haja briga, por não permitir que haja barulho. Oh, Pai, queremos agradecer por tudo. Neste momento que nos avistamos, ao momento de lanche, ao momento do almoço, Pai, abençoamos em nome de Jesus, reconhecendo aqueles que não têm neste momento, acreditando que o Senhor vai lhes dar em nome de Jesus. Abençoa todos os programas de hoje. Amém.
Amen. Conference adjourns.